This video will completely change the way you know Nokia forever, and you will never look at the Nokia brand the same way again. Imagine owning the world, not just a piece of it, the whole thing. In 2008, Nokia wasn't just a company, it was a global religion. With a staggering $76 billion in revenue, they controlled 40% of the entire planet's mobile market. If you had a phone in your pocket, chances are it hummed that iconic Nokia tune. They were untouchable. They were the Kings of Finland. But in just 5 short years, that empire didn't just crumble, it was liquidated. Sold for a pathetic $7.2 billion, less than 10% of what they were worth at their peak. How does the world's most trusted brand vanish overnight? Was it just the iPhone? Or was it something much darker? Today, we're peeling back the curtain on the most cold-blooded betrayal in tech history. From the secret Trojan horse CEO to the burning platform speech that set a multi-billion-dollar company on fire. This isn't just a business case study. This is the autopsy of a giant. Chapter 1. The Weird Beginning, from Forest Stream to Nordic Flight. Believe it or not, the world's most famous phone company didn't start in a high-tech lab. It started in 1865 in the middle of a freezing Finnish forest. The founder, Frederick, wasn't making microchips, he was making paper. Imagine a giant wood mill sitting next to a rushing river. Eventually, he named his company after that river, Nokia. For the next 100 years, Nokia was like a giant survivalist shop. They didn't care what they sold as long as it worked. Need rubber boots for the snow? Nokia made them. Need car tires or heavy cables? Nokia made those too. They were the ultimate jack of all trades, just trying to survive the harsh Finnish winters. They weren't tech geniuses yet, they were just really good at making things that didn't break. But then, things got weird. Nokia started playing around with walkie-talkies and radios. They even built a mobile phone that was so heavy, about 10 kilograms, that you basically needed a gym membership just to carry it. Even the leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, was spotted using a Nokia. Suddenly, the rubber boot company was becoming cool. But the real magic happened in 1992. The company was at a crossroads. They were selling paper, boots, tires, and electronics all at once, and it was a mess. So, the CEO made one of the balliest all-in bets in history. He looked at the rubber boots and the paper mills and said, "Sell it all." He got rid of the entire history of the company to focus on just one thing: telecommunications. It was a hero or zero move. And it worked. Within just 6 years, this small-town Finnish company flew past giants like Motorola to become the #1 phone brand on Earth. Nokia wasn't just connecting people anymore. They were owning the future. Chapter 2. The Unstoppable King. Between the years 2000 and 2007, Nokia wasn't just a company. They were the kings of the planet. Imagine a world where 2 out of every 5 people you met had the exact same brand of phone in their pocket. That was Nokia. They were the godfather of the digital world, and they were untouchable. Let's talk about the legends they built. First, there was the Nokia 3310. This wasn't just a phone, it was a tank. People loved it so much that even today, 25 years later, the internet is full of memes about it. If you dropped a 3310, you didn't check if the phone was okay, you checked if the floor was cracked. It was the first time we felt like a piece of technology could actually be our best friend. It was simple, it had a battery that lasted for days, and it gave us Snake, the most addictive game ever made. But then, Nokia did something even more amazing. They looked at countries like India and Nigeria and noticed something. Many people lived in places where the lights went out at night. So, in 2003, they released the Nokia 1100. It had a tiny, bright flashlight on the top. That one little light changed everything. It meant a student could study at night, or a farmer could find his way home in the dark. Because of that, the 1100 became the best-selling gadget in human history. Not just the best phone, the best anything. They sold 250 million of them. By 2005, the celebration was massive. Nokia sold its 1 billionth phone in Nigeria. Can you even imagine that? 1 billion people, all connected by a single brand from a tiny country in Europe. And just when you thought they couldn't get any bigger, they released the Nokia N95 in 2007. This was their masterpiece. Before the iPhone was even a thing, the N95 was like a supercomputer in your hand. It had a GPS to show you maps, a 5-megapixel camera that took incredible photos, and it could play high-quality videos. It was years ahead of everyone else. At this moment, Nokia was standing on top of the highest mountain in the world, looking down at everyone else. They were fast, they were rich, and they were loved by billions. It felt like the party would never end. But little did they know, the storm was already moving in. Chapter 3. The Burning Platform, the Betrayal, and the Fall. Now, imagine you are the king. You have the biggest castle, the most gold, and everyone bows to you. You feel safe. But then, in 2007, a man named Steve Jobs walks onto a stage in California and pulls out the first iPhone. Inside the walls of Nokia's kingdom, do you know what the leaders did? They laughed. They actually made fun of it. They tossed the iPhone around and said, "Look at this little toy. If you drop it once, it shatters. It's too expensive, and it doesn't even have a real keyboard. Nobody will ever buy this." They were so stuck in the old ways that they didn't realize the world was changing. They were like a giant dinosaur watching a tiny meteor hit the earth and saying, "Don't worry, it's just a shiny rock." But by 2010, the laughter turned into screams. Suddenly, everyone wanted an iPhone or one of those new Android phones from Google. Nokia's treasure chest was still full of money, but their customers were running away in droves. They were desperate. So, they did something they had never done before. They hired a stranger to lead them. His name was Stephen Elop. He was the first CEO who wasn't Finnish, and he came straight from a giant company you might know, Microsoft. In February 2011, Elop did something that changed history forever. He sent a secret letter to every single employee at Nokia. It was called the Burning Platform Memo. He told a story about a man working on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean. Suddenly, the rig explodes. The man is surrounded by fire. To stay on the rig means he will burn. To jump into the freezing dark water means he might freeze. Elop told his workers, "Nokia is that burning platform. We are on fire, and we have to jump." But here is where the story gets suspicious. Instead of jumping into the arms of Android, which everyone already loved, Elop made a shocking deal. He tied Nokia's hands to Microsoft's Windows Phone. This is what people call the Trojan horse moment. You know the old story about the wooden horse full of soldiers? People believe Elop was like that horse. He came into Nokia as a friend, but his real mission was to make Nokia so weak that Microsoft could buy them for cheap. The moment he announced this deal, he made a giant mistake. He told the world that Nokia's old phones were dead and burning. But the problem was, the new Windows phones weren't ready yet. It was like a store manager standing outside his shop shouting, "Everything in here is trash, but don't worry, I'll have better stuff in a year." Obviously, everyone stopped buying Nokia phones that day. Why would you buy a phone that the CEO just called a burning platform? Between 2011 and 2013, they launched the Lumia phones. They were beautiful. They were colorful. They had amazing cameras. But there was a huge problem. They were like a brand new car with no gas. You couldn't get the apps people wanted. No Instagram, no YouTube, no nothing. The fall was brutal. In just 3 short years, Nokia's slice of the world's pie shrank from 33% down to a tiny, lonely 3%. The king didn't just lose his crown, he lost his whole kingdom. Finally, in 2013, a bloodied and broken Nokia was forced to sell its phone business to Microsoft for a discount price. The dream was over, or so we thought.
Hey, if you're enjoying these corporate secrets, hit that subscribe button right now. Consider it a 0% interest investment in your own business IQ. And trust me, this is one stock that only goes up. Chapter 4. The Microsoft Fire Sale and the Great Escape. After the burning platform speech, Nokia was like a giant ship that had hit an iceberg. It was sinking fast. In 2013, the once mighty Nokia was forced to do the unthinkable. They sold their entire phone business to Microsoft for $7.2 billion. Now, $7 billion sounds like a lot of money, right? But for a company that used to be worth nearly $300 billion, this was like selling a brand new Ferrari for the price of a rusty bicycle. It was a fire sale. Everything must go. And remember Stephen Elop, the CEO we talked about? As soon as the deal was done, he left Nokia and went right back to Microsoft with a massive $25 million bonus in his pocket. To many Nokia fans, it felt like the ultimate betrayal. It was as if the captain of the ship set it on fire, waited for it to sink, and then got a prize from the company that bought the wreckage. But here's the funny thing about Microsoft. They might be great at computers, but they were terrible at Nokia. They tried for 2 years to make Windows phones work, but it was a disaster. Nobody wanted them. Microsoft realized they had made a huge mistake. By 2016, they were so fed up that they sold the Nokia name for just $350 million. That is a tiny, tiny fraction of what they paid. It was one of the biggest oops moments in business history. But just when everyone thought the Nokia name was going to disappear forever, something heartwarming happened.
A group of people who used to work at the old Nokia, people who actually loved the brand, decided they weren't going to let it die. They formed a new company called HMD Global. They went to the people who now owned the name and said, "Give it back to us. We know how to make Nokia great again." HMD Global became the new home of Nokia phones. And they were smart. They didn't try to use that clunky Windows software again. Instead, they finally did what fans had been begging for years. They put Android on Nokia phones. They launched the Nokia 6, 7, and 8, phones that were clean, simple, and tough. But their best move? They played the nostalgia card. They brought back a modern version of the legendary Nokia 3310. It had the same long battery, the same tough shell, and yes, it even had Snake. It was their way of saying to the world, we're back, and we haven't forgotten who we are. While they aren't the kings of the world anymore, they proved that a brand with this much heart is very, very hard to kill. Chapter 5. The Secret Superpower, the 5G Rebirth. While the world was busy watching Nokia's phone business burn down like a tragic movie, something incredible was happening in the shadows. Most people thought Nokia was dead, buried, and gone. But they didn't realize that Nokia had a secret laboratory where they were building the future of the entire planet. Enter a man named Rajiv Suri. While everyone else was crying about phones, Rajiv was looking at the boring stuff. The giant towers, the cables under the ocean, and the invisible signals that make your internet work. He realized that even if people stopped buying Nokia phones, the whole world still needed Nokia's help to stay connected. In 2014, Rajiv became the big boss of the new Nokia, and he made a move that was so bold, it was like a chess player taking the queen. In 2016, he spent a whopping $16.6 billion to buy a company called Alcatel-Lucent. Why? Because they owned something legendary, Bell Labs. Now, listen to how cool Bell Labs is. They are the geniuses who invented the laser, the transistor, which is in every computer, and even the coding languages we use today. By buying them, Nokia didn't just buy a company, they bought the world's greatest brain. Suddenly, Nokia wasn't trying to sell a phone to you anymore. They shifted their focus to B2B, which is just a fancy way of saying they started selling to the biggest players on Earth. They started building the 5G networks for giants like Airtel in India, T-Mobile in the USA, and Vodafone in Europe. Today, Nokia is like the invisible skeleton of the internet.
You might not see their logo on your phone screen, but their technology is the reason your YouTube video loads and your games don't lag. They own over 20,000 secret recipes, called patents, for how technology works. In fact, they are so good at what they do that NASA, yes, the space people, hired Nokia to build a 4G network on the moon. Think about that. Nokia went from being dead in our pockets to building the first ever cell phone tower for astronauts on the lunar surface. They aren't just a phone company anymore. They are the people making sure the entire galaxy stays connected. The king didn't die. He just moved to a much bigger castle in space.
Chapter 6. The New Face of a Giant. So, where is Nokia today? If you walk into a store looking for a Nokia phone, you're missing the real story. In 2023, Nokia did something they hadn't done in 60 years. They changed their logo. They threw away that old blocky blue font and replaced it with something sharp, white, and futuristic. Why? Because Nokia has a new message for the world. Stop calling us a phone company! They don't want to be in your pocket anymore. They want to be the brain inside every factory, every city, and every cloud. Today, Nokia's biggest partner isn't a phone shop. It's NVIDIA, the kings of artificial intelligence. In late 2025, NVIDIA even invested $1 billion into Nokia. Together, they are building something called AI native networks. Imagine an internet that doesn't just send data, but actually thinks, fixing its own problems before you even notice your Wi-Fi is slow. And the strategy is working. While the phone war of 2013 nearly killed them, they are winning the intelligence war of 2026. Looking at the latest numbers from 2025, Nokia's revenue has stabilized at around $22.5 billion, 19.9 billion euros. They aren't just surviving, they are profitable again, making billions in profit while building the 6G world of tomorrow. Nokia's story is the ultimate lesson for any brand. They were the kings, they were betrayed, and they lost everything. But they didn't give up. They changed their mind, they changed their logo, and they changed the world. Today, you might not see the Nokia name on your smartphone, but every time you send a message, watch a video, or look at the moon, Nokia is there. Invisible, powerful, and finally, back on top. Nokia's story is the ultimate lesson for any brand. They were the kings, they were betrayed, and they lost everything. But they didn't give up. They changed their mind, they changed their logo, and today, they are literally building the future in space. But Nokia isn't the only giant that had to reinvent itself to stay alive. If you think the jump from rubber boots to 5G is wild, you need to see how Sony went from a tiny rice cooker failure to owning your entire living room. I actually did a deep dive into the Sony empire right here. It's a story of Walkmans, PlayStations, and some of the gutsiest business moves ever made. So, don't let your curiosity sit on a burning platform. Hop over to the Sony video right now. It's the perfect sequel to today's story.